Hi everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about all of the summer of Disney Plus announcements they've because there's a ton of them. There is so much stuff that they've announced for this coming summer to be coming to Disney Plus that's looking just great. We'll also be sharing our thoughts on some of this week's Disney Plus originals. Quick bit of housekeeping before we move on. If you haven't already done so, make sure you do subscribe on YouTube. You can also subscribe on audio platforms like Spotify, iTunes. Also, a quick note as well, if you're looking for our weekly retro review, that's now moved over to its own audio feed. You'll find that under What's on Disney Plus Club Review. And so this week we've got it's For Dark World. So you'll find that one over there. Doing a special Q&A again on Sunday night, live on YouTube. So if you're a member as well, you can join in with the chat. So speaking of members, just want to say a huge thank you to all of our supporters. We've got Raphael, we've got Bad Dog Gamer, we've got Amit, My VCR Still Works, Bina, Joshua, Adam, Dawn, Martin, Jeremy, and Sarah. While over on the Patreons, a huge thank you to Sarah for being a platinum subscriber. We've also got Andrew, Jacob, Caleb, Red Mars Man, Andrew, Cody, Darren, the Juice, Lester, Lauren, and James. So again, huge thank you for all of your support. Make sure then that the podcasts and the videos and everything can continue to carry on. And yeah, that's let's jump into it because there was a ton of stuff. I mean, usually we get around the middle of the month, we get announced what's coming next. And they did this last year where they kind of announced a load of movies that are going to be coming to Disney Plus in the US over the summer. But first off, it started off with the UK list. And it's important to note these aren't complete. These are just kind of preliminary ideas of what's coming. So they did this for the UK. Then the following day, the Americans followed suit. We've also had some other countries as well sending out there. So we've got a really good idea of what's coming up right to the end of August. Lots of movies, lots of new originals that have been confirmed, and there's still a little bit more room on top. So just want to bring up some of the kind of the US ones to begin with that kind of stood out. So we've got a lot of movies that are coming back onto Disney Plus that have kind of been jumping around a little bit, like The Sandlot, and you're also getting Ergon, which is kind of funny because that one was on Disney Plus by accident, and then they removed it when someone actually, so they've taken it off. So that's coming in August. You're also getting X-Men: Dark Phoenix, Aquamarine, and We Brought a Zoo. Flicker, and a big one that I know is going to be really popular, Miraculous World Shanghai, The Legend of Lady Dragon. That's always going to be a big hit. You're also going to get like Ice Age: The Meltdown. So that's and Garfield. So those are kind of ones that have been sort of jumping around for a while, but that's always good to know. The big ones in there that I picked up on. First off, we have got a couple of new series. So we've got Growing Up Animal, which is a Natural Geographic series, 6 episodes, all about like animals growing up. So that'll be a nice little one. We've kind of known about that one for a while, but nice to finally have a date. So that'll be dropping on the 20th of August. We also confirmed that we're going to get a second season of The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse. Will be dropping at the end of July. And a second season of Short Circuit. So we're getting 5 new shorts dropping on the 30th of July for that one as well. So it's nice to have some animation coming. Moving on from there as well, we also had 2 new Disney Plus original documentaries announced, which will be dropping on the 23rd of July. Stuntman, which has been floating around for about 4 years now. It's a documentary that The Rock has been helping out with. And it's all about a stuntman, trying to jump over with a rocket, trying to Evel Knievel style. And then there's also Playing with Sharks, which is National Geographic documentary all about a diver that goes swimming with sharks. I'm going to get into sharks a little bit later on because there's a whole other thing. But I was kind of quite glad that they kind of put out this big like summer thing just to kind of give us an idea. The important thing to know, they didn't include What If. That's going to be coming in August. They did in the UK one. They said August. In the US one, they didn't. And then in the Italian one, they did state the 6th of August. However, that was quickly reducted by Disney going around all the sites telling them to take down that date. So don't take that date. And that's been floating around a lot. But that date doesn't sound correct the way that it got handled. Sometimes internationally, information goes out that it's not supposed to. I mean, I've seen it a number of times where it's been up and then they didn't want to announce it yet. So there was no What If date, but it's coming in August. But what did you think of all this summer of Disney Plus lineup?
It kind of came out of nowhere. I was a bit surprised by it, even though, as you mentioned, it happened last year. No, like super amazing announcements. Obviously, a date for What If would have been nice. No movies that I personally was like, oh, I'm so glad that that's finally on the system. Oh, the one that jumped out at me was Aragon, though. 'Cause I'm like, I don't think anyone's asking for this movie.
Yeah.
It it as a person who has not read the books, it was a terrible movie, and all my friends who have read the books tell me it's a terrible movie.
Mm,
So I don't think there's too much of a fan base for that movie.
yeah.
Um, and then you got like things like Garfield and so on. So they'll
I'm gonna,
get
yeah,
watched, but
yeah.
they'll get watched, but they're not going to create like buzzy headlines.
I'm gonna be honest. It's a little bit along the lines of like these are all just like the scraps that were left over that have been added and not added, and they didn't. And there's going to be a lot more announced on top. You know, there's going to be more announced for July, more announced for August. But some of these movies were a bit like, really, that's all you're kind of gonna. Um, they weren't any really big hitters there. But ultimately, the problem is now you're getting into that situation of obviously we had Raya and the Last Dragon drop yesterday, but we are 3 months away from like Cruella dropping, so there's not really any big new ones to drop on. But it's a shame that it wasn't any kind of new things that haven't, because all those movies are on Disney Plus somewhere else anyway. So it's not as if they're anything new. Same kind of thing happened with the UK list. We got loads of announcements as well. Well, our list was obviously much longer because we have Star. I mean, we had loads of different movies thrown in there. But also there was a lot of things coming to the UK that kind of brought up a few ideas that were a little bit different because we've had it confirmed that for the UK we're going to be getting Race to the Center of the Earth, which was recently added to Disney Plus in the US. That'll be coming as a Disney Plus exclusive. We're also getting Spidey and His Amazing Friends in July, which is a new animated series. So it's the first time they've kind of announced a Disney Channel show as kind of in advance of like this is a Disney Plus exclusive. You know, we sort of saw a little bit with Sulphur Springs, but they've maybe cottoned on to the idea that you know all your stuff on Disney Channel is only on Disney Plus. It makes more sense to promote it. So we know that that one's coming. Again, What If was August. We're getting Walking Dead season 11 coming in August. Also, that One Word Feyenoord, which is the Dutch football team show that I was talking about last year, that's going to be coming as a Star exclusive, a Star original. So that one may end up going to Hulu in the US rather than Disney Plus. It was also kind of strange. We got Genius Arifa yesterday on the first two episodes. That one's classed as a Disney Plus original rather than a Star original. So this is, you know, we're starting to see now a bit of a breakdown in terms of how they're releasing these because it's a little bit more mature, but they are considering that one a Disney Plus original. So that was quite nice to see a few of our originals also getting the second season of War of the Worlds. I did watch the first episode of that. I didn't realize so much of it was in French. That was the one thing. It was like suddenly then it was like they start talking French and going, okay, right now I'm gonna have to put the tablet down and read
I
it.
I didn't even know it was a series to begin with. You say War of the Worlds, I'm thinking of the old, radio drama from way back in the day.
Yeah.
That,
Well, the thing is, there was one series, and then they kind of there's this. We only recently had one in the UK, and then they've kind of done this one that was like a year apart. So it was a bit like, well, okay, but it stars Gabriel Byrne, so it's nice to have it on there. It hit the trending, so people were
well,
watching
he's a
it.
really good actor, so
Yeah, so
that speaks well of it.
I'm gonna give another episode. The fact that we got another season coming to Disney Plus. There's a few other kind of interesting things coming to the Disney Plus in the UK this summer. Was they announced a load of UK shows that have been on before. The Accident, Curry, National Treasure. You've also got like Informer, Baptiste. These are not made by anything to do with Disney. They don't even look like they've got anywhere involved in it. And it's almost like Disney have gone in and purchased some rights to some British TV shows to put on Disney Plus because they said they weren't going to license stuff, but we've been seeing it in the Netherlands, we've been seeing it in Italy and stuff, where they're actually going out and buying local content. A lot of people say, well, what? It's like, why not just create this? Because it's a lot cheaper probably to buy some own TV. But it was very noticeable. Like, going, oh, there's like 5 or 7 different like TV series that have previously been on like Channel 4 or the BBC, and I was like, that's I don't think that's a bad thing because it's going to help obviously with quotas, but just offering a little bit more British content for us would be a lot better. I mean, obviously we want originals, but it does look like they're going around scooping up different content, which was quite. I saw the first one, I went, oh, that's going to be a mistake, and then I saw like another series and another series, because when I googled it, I went, well, that's an ITV show. Why would that one be on Disney Plus? They've got nothing to do. It doesn't say ABC Studios or anything like that, and you're like, okay, that's kind of not quite right. But yeah, so we're getting some UK shows, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I have to assume it's to fulfill contractual obligations for how much material is made in the local countries. I know a lot of the European countries have those in there, and they must have realized we need to get up to these numbers really fast. So let's just go buy stuff.
Well, the thing is, it's the whole thing of this is to protect our own industries over here.
Of course,
you can see it from Australia doing it, Canada. What we don't want to do is end up with all of our streaming services, all of our content is coming from Netflix, Amazon, and Disney, and we actually don't have any work going on over here because it's all being made in, the cheapest place possible, and our culture and stuff gets lost because there are differences. There is another thing of Netflix has already shown that local content can really drive local subscriptions, because the trouble is with Disney Plus, and I will definitely say this, if you like American dramas and American movies and American animation, great. If you're looking for, when I sit down in the evening and watch, BBC or whatever it is, I know I'm getting content, and there is that kind of draw to a new series that's set and they know this, they've already worked this out. Obviously, if you're American, you're kind of used to that. That's just the kind of thing. But if you could imagine sitting down and all you were watching was British TV, you'd after a while you'd be like, I kind of quite like something, set in America. So there is a big draw for pulling in content. And it'll bring in a lot more in, especially in different languages. I think British is a little bit different because we're more used to American TV shows and it doesn't matter as much. But internationally, around in different countries, it really does make a massive difference having something in their own native language rather than subtitled or dubbed.
Yeah, and I would still say, even in the UK, there is something to be said for people talking in your accent or an accent that you recognize from somewhere else in the country, as well as dealing with issues that you deal with in your country.
Yeah.
So it's very different to be like, yep, we're in Times Square and we have to deal with all this stuff. And like, I've never been to I know you've been, but
yeah, and it's, I don't know, we don't all just run around as a cop going, all right, governor.
Are you sure? Because I think Big Shot might disagree with you.
Yeah,
not cocky, but still.
Well, it's just that kind of thing of having some representation there. So, I mean, luckily, generally Disney do a lot of filming over here anyway. They're currently set to film Indiana Jones this coming week, the new movie. They're filming Endor about an hour or so away from me. I'm kind of I've been tempted to drive up there.
Sorry, speaking of accents, that's Andor, not Endor.
Andor.
Yeah, Cassian Andor. It sounded like Andor to me. So I was like, that's Andor. A very different series.
Yeah, different. Yeah, so Andor. So that one there is then they're filming here the Little Mermaid movie. They film a lot of stuff over here already. So I think there's less of an issue. So those movies probably get counted towards the quota anyway. But yeah, so
I would have to assume so. That especially the bigger ones, that they draw local business. There's a lot of influence there. So.
And also as well is it's just people and staff and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff going on. But that was some of the UK ones so far. Also announced on the very same day, and I don't know why they didn't include this in the summer of Disney Plus announcement, because this seemed such a nice boost. National Geographic have announced that Shark Fest this summer is going to be coming to Disney Plus just as much as it's coming to the National Geographic channels. Now, we only know this for the US. We don't know what's going to be happening internationally. So it's 6 weeks of shark programming with over 21 hours of new premieres, 60 hours of enhanced content, and a treasure trove of archive footage. So after the shows have aired on National Geographic, they will then come to Disney Plus the following Friday after linear premiere beginning July the 9th. So some of the shows coming at some point. So these are coming in July. When Sharks Attack, Shark Beach with Chris Hemsworth, Rogue Shark, Orca versus Great White. Also getting Shark Gangs, Croc that Ate Jaws. Getting World's Most Dangerous Shark, Shark Attack Files. And then you're getting a Shark Attack Investigation, the Paige Winter story. And then World's Biggest Bull Shark. Then coming in August, we're getting Killer Shark versus Killer Whale. And then obviously we're going to be getting that National Geographic Disney Plus original Playing with Sharks. And I'm just like, ooh, National Geographic just like leveled up. You know, we're getting the, you know, shows arriving on the following Friday. And I was like, you know, we're seeing this with Gordon Ramsay right now. And now they're going to be doing it with Shark Fest, which makes so much more sense. Utilize these things. And I thought this was a bigger deal than the actual, to be honest, the summer Disney Plus announcement. It was a bit like, this is a big step.
It is a big step, and there's a lot of content packed in there. I am finding it a little funny that they've got Great White versus Orca and Shark versus Killer Whale, and like kind of stepping on the same facilities there. But at least in the States, Shark Fest has always taken backseat to Shark Week, which is the Discovery Channel version and the original version, we should say. So it'll be interesting to see if this streaming almost immediately after broadcast makes a difference for them.
It just makes so much sense for them to do this and to start pulling away from being, you know, things arriving so much later than they have been. And it really helps boost Disney Plus. And to me as well, as like one, you know, I understand the whole thing of premiering on National Geographic. They've still got advertisement, and I still think National Geographic kind of sits out on its own because of being a much older audience, which is much more engrossed in traditional television. You know, there is a big difference in the audience between the National Geographic and also the Disney Channel, which is why internationally the National Geographic channels are still going and everything else is being shut down, because there is an older audience that will tune in. But I think this was fantastic. There's a lot of shark content. It just makes so much sense. I mean, hopefully we'll get a little shark collection somewhere going, Shark Fest, but pushing new content to Disney Plus should just make so much more. You know, don't send it to Hulu, send it to Disney Plus, you know, and start getting it on there quicker, because by the time it's been on National Geographic and you wait a month to 6 weeks, you've lost all of that buzz. I mean, this, you know, now they'll be like, oh, you know, people can join in, and if it's the following Friday, it's not such a wait, you know, it's coming. I mean, this just looks a great announcement to me. I thought the Shark Fest stuff was probably the most interesting of all that announcement, because we're starting to see that shift away. Internationally, it's a little bit different. We are getting a load of like National Geographic shows arriving here in the UK. They've announced, like, you know, Running Wild with Bear Grylls, Wicked Tuna, and also Trafficked, and we're getting them, but they're going after they've been on National Geographic. So there's a little bit of different, because I had that confirmed this week, but it is definitely something that's going to be a nice boost to this summer of getting all those Shark Fest stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to a lot of it. Probably won't watch all of it. Some of them do sound a little, you know, clickbaity title wise, but there will be at least a few shows in there that I think are going to be really worth watching.
Yeah, because it's funny. It was something like Killer Shark versus Killer Whale, like, yeah, but then you said they've also got, you know, Orca versus Great White, which, yeah, it's a bit different. There's the Croc that ate Jaws.
That's a great name.
Yeah, and also especially not something as well that I misread the first time I read it, which was an entirely different movie. But so that one was it is a whole of just great content. We've also had it confirmed as well. FX announced tons of new shows that are going to be coming to FX on Hulu and the FX channel, and the following morning we then had it confirmed about a load of shows that are going to be coming to Disney Plus here in the UK. Had it confirmed that Dope Sick, Immigrant, Only Murders in the Building, and Pam and Tommy are all going to be coming to Disney Plus as Star Originals. They've also been confirmed for Canada as well. So we had that come through. But a load of other shows. So I'm not going to bring it up because I just realized I opened up the Canadian list, which is a lot shorter, because we've had it confirmed here for the UK that we're going to be getting American Horror Stories, Dear Mama, which is a documentary about Tupac. We're going to get Fleshman and Trouble. We're getting Gordon Ramsay Uncharted. We're getting new ABC series Maggie. We're also getting One Our Kind of People, the Pistol documentary the Pistol series about the Sex Pistols. We're getting ABC's new Queen series. We're getting FX Reservation Dogs. We're getting The Big Leap, The Chow Show, And also the big one was the Wonder Years. That's been confirmed as a Star original. We're also getting the untitled BJ Novik series, Welcome to Wrexham, which is being made by Ryan Reynolds, because he's brought the football club. And also Y: The Last Man. You know, they've all been officially confirmed to be coming to Disney Plus as Star originals. I mean, it was just like, this is what we needed, more clarity of when Disney put out their press releases and say, we've got this brand new show we're making and it's coming to Hulu. It's like, make some noise confirming at least that these are coming to, you know, Star International. So, and they're all coming in the next year. So we've got right through to 2022. We're also getting the new series of the Cardassians and their new spin-off show that's been confirmed. Just, I mean, instantly, just like you see that list and going, everything new is coming to Star, right? And everything that's already established is still going to wherever it was going. That seemed to be very much the line of going. But it was just great to have those shows confirmed. And we now know, going into the next year, what is coming to Star. There'll be a lot more coming as well, but all the big shows that they've announced are all going to be coming. And I just, again, it just, to us over here internationally, it just boosts Disney Plus's value so much, having, you know, at least, you know, all that extra content coming in. It's just changed everything for us over here, and it's kind of weird.
Yeah, and it's important for these shows to be coming out at roughly the same time over there that they are coming out here, because I mean, so far all the stuff that we've talked about with Star, for the most part, is stuff that's already been out on Hulu, sometimes for a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
But getting them together, lining them up, is so much more important.
Yeah, I mean, they did it with MODOK last month, where you got all 10 episodes at once. We're getting them weekly, so we're on like episode 3, I think, this week. Love Victor. Hulu's getting them all next Friday, getting the whole season. We're getting them a new episode the following week, and that'll be then running for 10 weeks afterwards. So by the time the finale hits, it'll be 3 months since it was arrived on Hulu. Now, I think that's on Hulu, that it's still sticking with the binge format rather than Disney Plus, which is definitely going for this weekly model. We might see a bit of a difference, hopefully, with Only Murderers in the Buildings, because that's dropping weekly on Hulu. So I'm hoping they can align a little bit. Maybe not necessarily the same day, but hopefully the same week. So hopefully we'll see more of this kind of alignment between them, so we're getting them a bit closer. And just, you know, it's like things like Aretha. You know, we've only just got it yesterday. It arrived in the US in March. Why did we have to wait? I mean, obviously, you know, that needs to break down, get a bit closer. But again, just a massive lineup of just, you just got all these shows, all of this stuff coming in, and it just really boosts up Disney, not just here, but in the US with the Shark Fest, the summer of, and I know there's a lot more people asking him, well, where's this? Where's that? And, you know, it's a kind of situation, I think, sometimes with Disney. They can announce 30 things, but if it's not the thing that you wanted, someone's going to, it's just, you know, to me, I was like, you know, they could have done a little bit more. They could have done with some heavy hitters that weren't available in another country. Maybe some classic stuff. So, but then we might see that again being announced in a couple of weeks for July, and then, you know, next month for August. It's still time, but I did think it was a bit messy in terms of how they did all these announcements, you know, because it was also like, I think there was some other confusion of other countries putting out lists that had other shows that haven't been announced yet, and there was just a bit of a messy announcement. But I really do think they missed something by not having Shark Fest on the summer of Disney Plus. I think that would have been a nice. I mean, some people might go, "Oh, that shark stuff," but it would have made more sense to have it all together, especially sending out the release on the same day.
Yeah, if they were like even a couple days apart, you'd like, okay, it's a separate initiative. Yeah. This is a National Geographic's thing. These are the Disney things. They're still not lined up. But yeah, having them on the same day, just put the banner on it. Especially since it's a pretty big thing. I mean, Shark Fest is still pretty darn big. People really enjoy these shows.
Yeah, and also, and I forgot, in September you're getting the X-Men Dark Phoenix and Tomorrowland on the 3rd of September. I mean, 2 amazing movies. Like, they could even spread it's like, yeah. I mean, Dark Phoenix is a big enough title that at least that one's coming on there. But so there we go. So that is all of the stuff that's kind of been announced for this summer. There was a load of, like I said, there's so many different shows there. So many different originals coming. It would have been, like I said, nice to have a few more things in there, maybe a little bit more, some big hitters. I definitely feel like they held back What If for its own special announcement, because and I'm going to be honest, I feel like that kind of deserves it, because we have been seeing merchandise dropping all over the place. You know, we've seen some new Lego sets really starting to get into that territory now, revealing what some of these shows are going to be about. So that one kind of feels there's going to be a lot of What If merchandise. Amazon's already got like its own separate section for What If. You know, we've seen at least, I think there's a Lego set with a Tony, and they do love this at Lego. You got a new Tony Stark, like a Hulkbuster suit, and there's also like a Iron Man Hulk suit that they made when, you know, Captain Britain, when she becomes the super soldier. There's a load of stuff coming. There's a load of action figures. All this stuff starting to come out, because ultimately this is what happens with merchandise starting hitting stores and retailers and stuff. Information is getting out there, but it's kind of fun to see if they're already like firing up Lego sets and Marvel Legends sets and stuff on these. So, you know, they're going in hard on, and even just the Lego sets design. You know, the boxes are all completely done up with What If. They really are going all in, because I think they're looking at this as a treasure trove of new merchandise. I'm just going to go, right, let's, you know, everything is, you know, brand new characters, new looks of everything, completely bonkers designs to really, you know, every character looks different. Everyone's got new. It's exactly perfect thing for what they need.
I mean, we've known for years, if not decades, that like Star Wars, they introduce new stormtroopers and they introduce new spaceships, TIE fighters and stuff, specifically so they have new things to sell you in the marketplace. And this is the first time we're really seeing it applied to Marvel. I mean, that's not entirely true. Obviously, every movie they get a new costume, which means new action figures and so forth. But like, this is the first large scale. It's a completely different Captain America. It's a completely different Spider-Man. I have to admit, I never really thought about the merchandising side of this, but when you started to see them, I was like, oh yeah, this makes perfect sense.
I think they're planning on this being a big show. I think they're expecting this to be a big show. I'm already going to go, when you're putting them up for pre-orders, because like, it can't beat mech suits. But let's now move on to some of this week's reviews. Let's start off with Star Wars: The Bad Batch, which I definitely think was definitely a stronger episode, kind of linked in a little bit more with the Clone Wars, with the twins being introduced and kind of setting them up again as mercenaries. You know, they've seemed to have kind of slid into this role with Sid given them missions, which I think kind of works. It makes sense for them to have someone to give them a direction every episode, and it allows them to do the Monster of the Week much easier with this new mercenary job.
That, and we actually got a little bit of character progression for some of them. Obviously, the big one being, what's the big guy's name right now? Wrecker, right. He's got some a plot that is apparently developing there. There were some hints at it last week, but...
Yeah, well, they kind of developed on that thing of him. He's actually still being affected by the chip.
Right. And it seems to be getting worse. That's the important part. So we could end up in a situation where other members of the squad also defect or return to the Empire. We could even end up in a situation where they all return to the Empire, and it's up to Omega to kind of break the programming. But we'll see where they're going with that. That said, you mentioned the two mercenary thieves that we had in there. These are the two that we saw last year in Clone Wars. And the second I saw them, I was just like, I don't want to deal with these two again. I hated them in Clone Wars. I'm not fond of them here. And unfortunately, the episode did not convince me that I was wrong on that one. I did not like these characters.
They're just generic, aren't they? They're just very generic. There's nothing really interesting about them.
Not really. But that aside, and it was a good episode. I did enjoy seeing the droids come back.
And it was nice kind of... what I do like about this series is it's really kind of, they're narrowing in on fixing the problems between the two trilogies of what happened to all the droids. Well, now we can see that, they're melting them all down. And a little thing like that can help, like, just finish up that story of kind of, because ultimately so much stuff just made no sense at all. From the end of episode 3 to episode 4, there's this I go, okay, yeah, the clones are now a thing, and all the Troy drones have been deactivated. Well, that's convenient, you know. It was just like, but I like the idea that kind of the rebels are kind of they're after how to defeat the clones, which again, it's just kind of showing because at the minute it still kind of feels that weird thing of the rebels are kind of obviously building up their strength, but it takes them a decade to kind of do this. But also in some ways, the Empire hasn't really. We're in a situation we've not really seen what the Empire are doing. They're still very much in like the transition period, and I'm still loving the fact that they've not been pushing on this whole thing with Crosshair and the Empire chasing them down because they need to do something. And obviously, Hunter is alluding to the idea that he's probably is turning against the Empire because he's, you know, he helped them out with the information and stuff. But they haven't really done too much yet to kind of make them go after them and be warrant of a whole team invested. Because at the minute, we only really know that it's the Caminos that are trying to track down Omega. You know, they're not actually after the Bad Batch; they're actually just after Omega. But I'm kind of like the fact that they've held back on the Empire so far.
One thing that I've liked, though, is while they are holding back on the Empire, when they do have them in there, with the exception of like Grand Moff Tarkin being Mr. Evil Guy, there's nothing overt going on where the people in the cities would be like, oh man, this is so much worse than the Republic. They're actually in a situation like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool. We get like our registration and you know, things seem a little bit better. Obviously we know where it's going, but the local populace is like, yeah, no, there's really no difference. Republic, Empire, whatever.
Yeah, but also that whole thing as well. You would imagine the war's over. You know, you've been in a war, like this Clone Wars have been going on for years. One side's won, the droids have gone. There would be a feeling of, okay, so we're done. Oh, you know, we can all relax and get back to our own lives and stuff. And I do like that fact that they're tying into this area a little bit more of giving. They can't go on for too long because they're going to need the Empire to be the antagonist or the kind of the ones to be going after them. But you know, hold back. I'm liking the idea that they're just holding back reins and, you know, don't go full on them. Let them build up to it. And I think this is a good thing about this. Though, unfortunately, it also makes the series feel a little bit flatter because of it.
Yeah. You were talking about how they're going kind of towards the Monster of the Week, working for Sid and all that. It does feel like we're going back into the Clone Wars. We'll do a short story, come back, short story, come back, without too much progress on like overarching stories. But it does seem like that's the point of this series. We're just going to have a little bit of fun with the Bad Batch guys and let the long-term story simmer a little while. So it depends on what your preference is there. Yeah. I would like a little bit more of like the actual story, the one that, you know, that stars the Bad Batch rather than, you know, Filoni going, let's tie up all the loose ends. As a lore nerd, I love them tying up the loose ends, but at the same time, like, this is the Bad Batch. You still haven't convinced me why I even care about the Bad Batch.
Yeah, it's a bit that kind of like weird thing at the minute of, I was looking at some pops and stuff the other day and going, well, I like Wrecker and I like, you know, Hunter's okay, but it's like Omega Alpha, or Omega Echo and Tech. I'm like, I'm not gonna bother buying them. Just like, you know, I'm gonna hold off on them. But yeah, so it's I thought it was a solid episode. It wasn't anything amazing, but it's just more of it. It definitely, you can see why these shows kind of go in a different category to like the Mandalorian, the pacing, the story, and everything. But at the same time, I can see why, and all, you know, this could just hook another generation of kids in on Star Wars, like Rebels and Clone Wars, because I still find it very strange of, you know, like my friends and stuff, you know, we all play all these like Star Wars tabletop games. It'd be nice to get back into person soon. But it's that thing of, you know, so many of them that are much younger than me have this so much more connection to the Clone Wars series and to the Clone Wars movies than I do. And I can see this kind of, I feel like for me, Bad Batch is kind of it's that weird combination of everything. So it's really just an enjoyable show. Be interested to see how this one works each week, because they didn't release the Nelson streaming and it managed to make it onto the top 10. But I think that was more due to the fact of it being May the 4th with that extra long episode, and then the following episodes, the minutes went up. I'll be interested to see if they manage to maintain that week on week, because I don't think they will. That's my gut feeling.
There isn't much competition at the moment. I know there'll be internal competition from Loki, but there aren't any like super buzzworthy shows coming out on either Prime or Netflix at the moment, and with the exception of Loki, there's really nothing competing with it in terms of popularity on Disney Plus. I guess High School Musical, the musical, might be in that range. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's hard to judge with that one because that one's a very difficult one to monitor what's going on with it, because obviously Olivia Rodrigo is so big, she's massive right now, that in some ways she's doing a lot of promotion, and they mention High School Musical, but she doesn't seem to be doing, she's obviously launching her own music career, so it's kind of like, that's the past. I'm kind of too big, because I'm gonna be, if they haven't got to lock down to a contract for season 3, I cannot see how they can afford to bring her back in. He's like, one of the biggest artists right now. Like, they've got no chance of bringing her back in. But having her, doing songs and singing in this every week is a great episode. So we might as well jump into that one now. Did you watch this latest episode of High School Musical?
So I did not. I watched episode 3 during the week, as I said I would, and it was okay. I thought it was better than the first 2, but it wasn't enough to hook me. Now, being that this was a slower week, the Mighty Ducks was done, so didn't have that, and Loki hasn't started yet. I was like, oh, maybe I'll watch this, and then I watched Big Shot, and they had that entire musical section right in the middle of that. I'm like, I've got my musical fix for the week.
It was a solid episode. All that basically happened is they get locked in because there's a snowstorm, and there's a lot of fighting going on, but they kind of work it all out in the end, and basically Nikki kind of decides that she doesn't actually like the school that she's at, which makes a lot of sense because they made it very obvious the fact that she hates that other school she's at, and there's no personality, and they're all just being clones, and there's no actual love for music, so she wants to come back.
I mean, they were setting that up in episode 2 when she butted heads with the administrators. Like, no, you read the part the way we tell you to read the part. You don't do your own personalization.
It was a little bit on the lines of it was even the fact that they changed the color tone, so everything there just looked dull, and it was so. I mean, they're kind of going, they're really laying this on. Like, you go into an arts college or a music college, and everyone is just. And it was just on the lines of that's not reality. I mean, not everything's going to be jumping around like High School Musical and Fame and running around singing constantly, but I would imagine there's going to be a lot more personality coming out. It was a bit like, this isn't quite really realistic.
I mean, to be fair, this is not a subtle show. It's not. It's not a show where you're like, "Ooh, this is a long simmering plot." No, this is. We introduced the plot, we let it build, and then we resolved it after episode 4 or 5. And obviously, she's a core character in the cast. They were going to get her back into it. I wouldn't be surprised if they shipped her off to the school in the first place, simply to be like, I don't know if we have her for season 2. And then like, oh, okay, all right, let's get her back.
Yeah, so that's that one. So that's a good solid episode. Again, it's definitely that middle tier for me. It's like at the minute, with free Disney Plus originals, it's my 3rd show rather than top one. We also had Big Shot, which another great episode, kind of again pushing a lot more stories, multiple notable fires going on in this episode, getting ready for the kind of, I would say that we're going into the finale zone of setting up Coach Korn, that he's struggling. He's kind of adapting to living there with everybody, but he's still a little bit scared of it all. But also setting up, will he go? Will he not go? Of course, he's not going to go. He's going to end up staying behind because he's fallen in love with the place. But they're really setting it up that that there is some offers on the table and he could go if he wanted to.
And there'll be conflict that comes from it because people will find out that there are offers on the table, just like they found out that from the other stuff. And the principal brought him in and yelled at him for a little bit. Didn't actually yell, but still. There's that story, which actually I have to admit is probably the least interesting of them, is the will he stay, will he go? We know he's not going to go, but they have to play it out.
Get at the end of the season. All right, kids, I'm off. Bye.
Bye. I learned nothing. I'm off to better places, and you guys are stuck in high school. Like, oh, that would be a downer ending right there.
And there's always that kind of weird thing. Like, these kids are going to move on to the next. So they got the next. It's like, all I look at it go, you're not really helping develop your next year's season, are you? There's a little bit too much focus on now rather than like next year when these kids will get shipped off to uni. But nevertheless,
well, in American sports, high school culture, part of the idea is that if we're really good now, we will attract more good students because now we're a famous basketball program or a hockey program or football or whatever. And so it will become like a self-perpetuating machine. We're really good, so we attract the good talent, which means we're still really good and we attract the good talent, and so on and so forth.
But then the other idea, other than this idea of like, I don't know, you go to the school nearest to your house, that kind of thing.
High school can be a little bit special in that.
Yes.
But in any event, that's not the point. That one particular
this is again where localization and different content can hide in the fact of like these high school shows from the US are a very different breed to high school.
It would be a very different show if you had a football coach who coached for like Arsenal or something like that, and he gets disgraced and now he's got to coach a high school team. No one would care. They'd be like, what? Actually, I think people would be worried about his intents at that point. But yeah. Anyway, there are otherwise other good plots going on in this, though. There's a lot of personal plots going on.
Yeah, there was a lot of development of all the. I mean, like Destiny was having the thing with her parent or with her mum, so that was kind of quite interesting. We also had just nice seeing some stories outside of the. Because this is what I like about it. We've kind of moved away from the basketball court. You know, we're dealing with these issues, and they've built these characters up. You know, you got the whole thing going on as well with like Louise and her parents have kind of been they're kind of keeping that simmering because obviously something's going to happen with him probably getting going to prison or something like that, and that's going to be the catalyst for her. But also, you know, they're doing something with Mouse and Harper and them kind of having their big scene because Disney were making a big thing of Pride kicking off with a whole collection on Disney Plus and kind of pretty much kind of showing the clip of them kind of just about to kiss as part of the big banner on the front. There was no hiding it. It was like, okay, the episode's not out for 3 days, but you're already kind of hinting the fact that they're in the bedroom together.
Somehow I completely missed that. Like I never saw this banner, which is a good thing because when I saw it, I was like, oh, is she going to crash and burn or is this actually going to happen? I was legitimately like concerned that she was going to confess to the other girl and the girl was doing like, no. And so
well, they've been toying with that thing for the whole season, so it's nice to see them doing it again. Doing these stories in these shows is important. You know, I do think that, you know, you look at it now with Diary of a Future President, High School Musical, the series, and Big Shot, and even not to the same degree, but they did touch on it a little bit in Mighty Ducks. You know, every single Disney Plus original has got characters that are LGBTQ, and so it's kind of good for them to have these characters in there consistently every series, you know, and this is a main storyline, so very different. Obviously they did release a trailer for Love, Victor season 2 this week, you know, and they're full on making out, and it was a kind of thing of like one of my mods messaged me going, you can tell they knew now they're not making it for Disney Plus because they kind of retched it up a bit. I'll have a review of the first 4 episodes going up later next week, because that's coming to Disney Plus in a couple of weeks. But you know, you can see the kind of the level between, and it was kind of like it wasn't until afterwards I go, well, I suppose if you look at Love, Victor kiss and then the Big Shot kiss, like there's a very different intensity going on in it, and I'm like going, okay, you can see where like they've, you know, there's like a peck and then there's a make out, and it was because it's also maybe like with High School Musical the series as well, you've kind of, you know, we've got like Seb and Carlos, you know, they're kind of together, but they don't really show them the same way. So we're getting there, you know, more representation is great. And to be honest, it's just part of, you know, part of high school life and just all the rest of it. So it's nice seeing this kind of coming in, and also just treating it like just a normal storyline in there and not making a big deal of it. But yeah, no, I thought it was a nice storyline to kind of, because she's been like teasing this for the whole season of her kind of looking at Harper and kind of saying she likes her and stuff. But so that, I thought that was a nice little moment.
Yeah, it worked. And like I said, I wasn't even thinking about the fact that they were both girls. I was just like, oh, she's going to put herself out there, and if it doesn't work out, she's going to be really hurt by it. And that's good storytelling there, where you're actually legitimately concerned that a character is going to get their heart broken. And it would have made no difference if it was a girl and a boy or 2 boys or 2 girls. They pulled it off perfectly.
Well, this is the thing. I think we're at that point now where, you know, essentially, you know, I know for me, like I'm watching, you know, you're watching these shows, and you are getting to that point of because it's happening more regularly in all the different shows. It has become much more normalized, and therefore it's like you say, I don't even know. It's because it's funny because it's like with the Love Victor ones, some of the most kind of wow, we've seen like because they were like, you know, they really kind of, and there was like the lines of, I didn't even really notice. I was just watching the show, and it's like, oh yeah, and that's what you want. You want someone, you know, watching the show, and something like that happens, like with Mouse and the kiss, and you just yeah, fine, cool, move on. But it is definitely, I think, just a great thing to have all of this coming in and just having some different stories, you know, representing life now for kids, you know, for people watching it, and it's important that it's all there. And I just, again, it's just good to have all these stories going on in all of these different shows. But so trying to think, those. We also had Marvel Legends with Loki and. I didn't, to be honest, I didn't even bother watching because I've watched all the we watched all the movies with Loki.
Yeah. I mean, they're only like 8 minutes long, so I put them on as background noise. They are exactly what you expect. We have said everything you need to say about them. If unlike us, you have not watched all the movies lately, or at least the Thor movies lately, whatever, 8 minutes, it gives you a quick refresher on what's going on with these characters.
Yes. So
and the Cube, which is not a character, but it got its own special.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that I just wish it didn't make such a big thing. To be honest, it's barely a YouTube video. It's kind of it does seem a bit odd of them making a big deal of it, but it's there. We also got some new Star originals. We got the first 2 episodes of Genius arrive here in the UK. Great series. Can't wait to see where this one goes. Much more mature. That's my dog barking.
I was going to say that. Leia sounds.
Yeah, she's in the garden. So yeah, much more. There's some really serious storylines going on there. You know, you got like domestic abuse. You've got sort of child pregnancy and stuff. There's some real deep stuff going on here. So I really enjoyed watching those first 2 episodes this week. We've had a new episode of Rebel, which is a shame because I watched the second episode last night and I was like, it's a shame that it's like, is that kind of weird thing. I know this show's been cancelled, and and it's hard to get invested in it because you don't know where it's going. But it was like they really did kind of nip this one right in the bud before it's even kind of found its legs to get going. So that one was pretty cool. We also watched Big Sky as well this week. Just again, pretty dark with what they're going on in that series of they're trying to track down the killers, and this family are all doing like weird things with. There's something weird going on this in his farm, and the detectives are trying to get him. And one of them, they're both at the beginning of the episode, just in really peril because both of them have been kind of pretty much been kidnapped at that point. And yeah, it's all pretty dark. It's a great series. Just really enjoying Big Sky. Again, it's nice having the much more mature stuff going on with Big Sky, Rebel, Aretha, and then we're gonna have MODOK as well. I haven't watched this week's MODOK episode yet, and watched Grownish as well. That one was all about. Because this is where I sometimes with local shows where things I can pick up on stuff that I wasn't maybe necessarily aware of. Because in this episode of Grownish this week, it was all about one of the students kind of dealing with his student debt and the issues that he have, and about how the loan repayments for Black students is much higher than for what. And again, it's not being in America and not being an American student, I don't really. And I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of because here in the UK, all of our student loans come from the government at a set rate for everybody. There's no different. Everyone gets the same rate regardless of who you are, your parents, or anything like that. It's all dealt with by the government. And it was just kind of like, oh, again, this is the thing where you're learning little things about the culture that just doesn't necessarily represent what's going on here. So I thought that was kind of an interesting sort of note. And then just the amount of debt that he racked up, hundreds of thousands of dollars of student fees and stuff. And it is just scary. But it was, again, just a nice. It wasn't so much a funny episode this week, but it definitely was. I think it was just learning a little bit more about universities in the US. But yeah, another solid episode from that one. I'm trying to think what else we had. Again, just so it does, on a Friday it's like jumping in, right, what should we watch? This it really does make a massive difference with the amount of content we're getting. But I think that was it. Did you watch anything else? Did you watch Raya and the Last Dragon, or are you going to be watching it this weekend?
I'm going to watch it this weekend, and I might even duck into the theaters and try out Cruella. Not committing to that, but if the theater's not too packed, then I'll probably do it. Fortunately, my local theater has the reserved seating, so I can see exactly how many tickets have been sold and how packed it is, and I can decide off of that. And also, in addition to Raya, obviously, I'll watch Us Again as well, which was the short film that would have shown in front. Well no, Raya's in theaters too. So
Us Again, they only showed it in cinemas. It's a fantastic short. We were lucky they got they sent a screener version with that one when it came out. It was just a fantastic. The water work on it is just incredible, isn't it? And the lighting of the water and stuff just look amazing.
I mean, I've only seen the preview images so far, but I'll watch it probably right before I watch Raya to get the proper cinema experience for it. But I'm looking forward to both of those.
Yeah, I'm going to watch Raya again at some point over the weekend. I'll pop that one on. I did watch Cruella again, actually. I did watch that one.
Well, get your money's worth.
Yeah, it was kind of, I thought, well, I'm going to watch it again. Primarily, I've been kind of binging my way through New Girl on Disney Plus. That's the new comedy one. Well, I've never seen that series. I mean, that one's been around for like 8 seasons or 7 seasons. So I'm still only, but it's nice. This is what I find with comedies, where you can just put them on in the background and just let them, that kind of Friends thing where you can just kind of let them roll. You can, and yeah, so I mean, that's my new kind of binge show, is that one. And I was ended up watching. My wife's been watching Lost, so I was sat there yesterday and go, I've been sat here for 45 minutes watching just a random episode for like season 4 of Lost.
Well, it doesn't actually matter if you watch them in order or not. It makes no sense anyway.
No. It did kind of remind me, going, oh yeah, this is like just at the point where it was starting to go really off track. But yeah, again, this is just a great thing. There's so much different content out there, so we'd love to know what you guys are watching on Disney Plus, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. Make sure you go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Follow us on social medias, join our Facebook group, and you can help support the channel and the podcast by joining Patreon or our YouTube channel members. And tomorrow we'll have a new episode up where we're going to be talking about For Dark World, and then there'll be a live Q&A on YouTube on a Sunday evening UK time. It's about 3 o'clock Eastern, I think it is. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. See you guys soon. Laters.